What does it mean to be a flat earther? I don't know if we're going to watch this. This is from someone I don't think we've ever watched before, called Taboo Conspiracy. So let's see if there's anything interesting here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taboo Conspiracy, and I'm a flat earther. As I've said before, I believe that flat earth is the key to ending our physical, mental, scientific, educational, financial, and spiritual enslavement. That's the only reason why I'm here, and that's why I'm passionate about the flat earth, and that's why the anti-truthers are trying so hard to shut us down. My topic for this presentation is, what does it mean to be a flat earther? We know that the media would proclaim that flat earthers are just stupid or uneducated, holding on to unproven, antiquated beliefs.
I think part of that's true. They're certainly holding on to unfounded, antiquated beliefs based on pseudoscience, right? They're not doing actual science. They tend to do pseudoscience, and when they do actually do scientific experiments, as we saw in the documentary Behind the Curve, when it shows the Earth is round, they don't actually heed those results, which makes it not science. If you don't take your experiments and accept the results, then you're not really doing science, are you? But I think it's more complicated than calling, like, flat earthers stupid or stuff like that. In fact, I think that, and again, we do that sometimes on here for entertainment, but when we're talking about the flat earth movement in general, which I think thankfully is already on the downturn, so I'm not super worried about it. I think in another 20, 30 years, people will look back on this and be like, wow, people used to believe flat earth for a little while there. But I think it more has to do with people being more susceptible to conspiracy theories, which isn't necessarily indicative of being stupid. It's indicative of having probably overactive pattern recognition, right? To the extent that it becomes harmful to yourself. You're finding patterns everywhere where they aren't really existing. And I also think it makes certain people feel special about themselves to be like, oh, I know this thing, that I'm on the secret little club where I know the real shape of the Earth. So I think it more has to do with that. And also I think certain people... How do I put this? I think the educational system in the United States especially has failed curious people pretty woefully. So I think certain people who are flat earthers, I would even include Nathan Thompson in this list. I think Nathan Thompson is probably someone who is innately a very curious person. He asks questions, but school didn't give him the tools in order to appropriately parse answers to his questions. So he'll ask questions like, oh, how does this work? How does this work? How does this work? But instead of being able to parse through answers correctly and understand that, like, oh, the Earth is round, here's how we know this, he just gets conspiratorial with it, and it ends up very, very unhealthy. So, I don't know. It's a complicated issue. AshyBoo74 with 20 bets. I learned in one of my psych classes that feeling disenfranchised in some way can lead people to be more susceptible to believing in conspiracy theories. I could understand that, sure.
Well, I have a bachelor's, a Juris Doctorate, and a master's, and many other flat earthers also have advanced degrees.
What's your degree in? I'm very curious. 74 Quinn 74 20 bits. If you want to understand flat earthers better, Behind the Curve is excellent. It's a documentary about the flat earth community. It sheds light on exactly what Hannah is saying. People who slip through the cracks. Yeah. It's really good. Check it out. Behind the Curve on Netflix.
We have PhDs, engineers, pilots, military professionals, lawyers, surveyors, and teachers. Okay, so maybe we have the same formal education, but maybe we flat earthers are just ignorant of the heliocentric model. Surprisingly, nearly every flat earther knows more about the heliocentric model than your typical ball earther.
I mean, maybe to an extent, but that's more just because people take things for granted that don't matter in their everyday lives. You certainly don't know more about it than actual, like, physicists, though, or people who deal with space regularly. You might know more than your average person, but that's because your average person doesn't think about that stuff because it just doesn't, come up in their daily lives. Which, again, I think plays into the whole idea of, like, if this was a conspiracy and the Earth was actually flat, it's not. But if it were, what would the point be? Certain religious flat earthers will claim that it's to try and get you to believe that God isn't real or whatever, because a flat earth somehow proves God exists, and they're trying to steer you away from that. But that seems like a pretty baseless accusation to me. I don't think there's anything in particular involved in the idea of a flat earth, if it existed, that points in the direction of God any more than a round earth does. So I think that falls pretty flat on its face, haha. But, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
We're going to have a little quiz here. Let's see how good you flat earthers are at restating heliocentric dogma without looking up the answers. Question 1. How fast does the ground of the Earth allegedly rotate at the equator? Approximately 1,000 miles per hour. Question 2.
Again, though, you're using linear velocity to describe rotational motion. That's something that a lot of flat earthers will do when they're talking about, like, oh, the speed of the Earth as it spins, it's so fast, how come we don't feel it? For one thing, you don't feel motion, you feel acceleration or negative acceleration. You don't feel, absolute motion. But secondly, also, because of the size of the Earth, it's rotating one time a day. It's not moving that fast for its size. It's just huge.
How fast is the alleged Earth's orbit around the Sun? 66,600 miles per hour. Question 3. How far away is the Sun purportedly from the Earth? 93 million miles.
That's the average, I think. We're in an elliptical orbit, so it's going to vary, but yeah.
Question 4. How are seasons caused according to the heliocentric model? Because the Earth is tilted.
There's nothing funny about the tools.
Question 5. How many degrees is the alleged axial tilt of the Earth?
Mitchell Drummer with 20 bits. There were like 3 passages in the Bible that say 4 corners of the Earth, so that's probably kind of why flat earthers think there's a connection to the Bible. That, even though of course that seems to be, poetic in nature, not literal, but also in Genesis they mention the firmament, which is a dome, basically. We've talked about it before on this channel.
23.4 degrees or 66.6 degrees, depending on how you want to view it. Question 6. How far away is the moon, allegedly? From surface to surface, it would be 234,000 miles. Question 7. What is the radius of the alleged ball Earth, and what is its circumference? Radius equals 3,959 miles. Circumference, 25,000 miles. Question 8. What formula can you use to determine the rate at which the alleged ball Earth drops away from you? 8 inches per mile squared.
No, again, this is actually incorrect. This is based off of the 8 inches per mile squared thing is something flat earthers will use in order to try and say the Earth should curve more than it does. And the source for this is actually pretty interesting. There's a book that is sort of the source book for a lot of modern day flat earth beliefs. It's called Zetetic Astronomy, and it claims that this 8 inches per mile squared is how you should determine the arc of the Earth, the curvature of the Earth, and he says it's 8 inches per mile squared, but it's not. That's the calculation for a parabola, and the Earth is not a parabola. It's a sphere. In order to calculate this, you need to use trigonometry. You can't just say 8 inches per mile squared. That's not how it works. So this one's actually incorrect. He's cribbing from Zetetic Astronomy, or potentially from other flat earthers who have cribbed from Zetetic Astronomy and not realized that that's an inaccurate measurement. We should read Zetetic Astronomy sometime, at least some segments, so we can get some interesting stuff on it. It's a little bit like I shouldn't call it a flat earth Bible, because, not every flat earther is going to even know it exists, but it's where they source a lot of their claims. It's where the origin of many of these flat earth claims comes from.
Audience anywhere that can answer those questions better. We flat earthers are certainly not ignorant of the heliocentric model. In fact, when you really think about the flying, vortexing heliocentric model, you begin to realize how stupid it really is. Since they try to obscure their actual beliefs, let me tell you what a ball earther believes. They believe all of the planets, moons, asteroids, meteors, and satellites of our solar system are chasing after the sun that is flying around our galaxy at a speed of 514,000 miles per hour. This video isn't scaled properly, but if you scale it properly with the sun having a diameter of just 1 centimeter on your computer screen, Pluto would then be outside your home 42 meters away from the sun.
Yeah, the solar system is very, very big. Cosmological scales are difficult for humans to comprehend because we're used to the concrete. We're used to what we, observe in our day-to-day life. That doesn't mean those distances don't exist just because they're not something we experience personally through our observations in our everyday life. Because we have tools that we use to observe these things, telescopes, other ways of determining this stuff. Like, I understand, especially for flat earthers, it seems a lot of them have problems estimating size. and scope. They'll say things like, why can't I see the curve? For one thing, you kind of can through certain observations. The boat's going over the horizon, which they'll claim you can bring back using Nikon cameras and different things with optical zooms that are quite strong, which you can to an extent, but again, eventually they do go over the horizon. But they'll claim, like, when they're looking at a flat horizon, why don't I literally see it curving down like this, not recognizing that the Earth is so huge that you're not going to be able to see that with your naked eye. It's just a huge planet. It's absolutely ridiculous. And these problems that they have with understanding these sizes compound as we get even off of Earth and into space, you know? I can't say that I can exactly, you know, without looking at an actual model, visualize, like, the distance between the sun and Pluto, but I understand that it's astronomically large, and the fact that it is astronomically large does not immediately ring false to me just because it's difficult for me to picture.
That's ridiculous. But what's even more crazy is the fact that they believe that all of the planets and moons of the solar system are all on this same plane of the sun as they chase after the sun.
Why? It's a gravity thing.
So,
let's see. Why are the planets... I forget what they call this. There's a word for it. The actual plane that the planets are on. Why are the planets on the same plane? The orbits of the planets are coplanar because during the solar system's formation, the planets formed out of the disk of dust which surrounded the sun. Because that disk of dust was a disk, all in a plane, all of the planets formed in a plane as well. Rings and disks are common in astronomy. Well, there you go. There's the answer. There was some notification. Catalina Gearbox, thank you for donating $3. Made the best broccoli and cheesy macaroni tonight. Yum. Sounds good. I like broccoli, macaroni, and cheese. I like broccoli. The ecliptic, is that what it's called? The ecliptic. Coolio.
in a year time, the sun would have traveled in this left direction 4.5 billion miles in 1 year. However, planet Earth would have also traveled 4.5 billion miles, chasing after the sun in the same left direction. But in addition, Earth would have simultaneously traveled up and down 584 million miles in an ellipse around the sun.
Okay.
If you're still struggling with the silliness of this...
Wait, what's silly about it? Your incredulity is not an argument. These are all observations made by people who spent their entire lives researching these things and testing each other's conclusions. Like, if you have something that disproves the things that they've already proven with actual observations and math, then you should present them. But you just not thinking it sounds right isn't an argument. It just showcases your own ignorance.
Next time you're in a marathon, try sidestepping back and forth at great distances while simultaneously trying to keep up with the leader, and maybe you'll see the problem.
What? Do you think that me creating, like, self-locomotion by running is the same thing as orbital mechanics? Because it's not.
There's nothing funny
That's a
about the
terrible comparison. Ashiboo74 20 bits, you said cheese? Again, you know what? Someone already won bingo, so if you want to take it, go ahead. Someone already won bingo, though, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
Like I've said before, I don't care how many degrees you have. This is stupid.
No, it's not. It might be unintuitive to you, but that doesn't automatically make it stupid. And also, this isn't an accurate depiction of this anyway.
Ball Earthers
Hi,
believe
Kitty.
that a comet, like Halley's Comet, can get yanked back every 75 years and catch right back up with a zooming solar system right on schedule.
What do you mean catch up? It's part of it. It's part of it. What do you mean catch up?
Stupid. They believe that...
It's all moving together. I don't understand why... Maybe it's because of this, like, illustration that doesn't take, like, the ecliptic into consideration and kind of has them trailing at all different depths. I don't know.
There's nothing
Even
funny
though the
about
Earth is
tools of
wobbling,
capitalism.
spinning, and vortex...
Butterfiend69 with bits. I hate how smug they sound when they do this. Yeah, it's frustrating, but It is what it is.
Through the vacuum of space at insane speeds, that the North Star has never changed position in recorded history, simply because...
Untrue. The North Star actually was different during the time of ancient Egypt than it is today, and in another, I think, 6,000 years or something like that, it's going to change. It's currently Polaris, and it's eventually going to be something else. I don't remember the exact one, though.
Because it's really, really, really far away. That's stupid. They believe that all of the wobbling, spinning, and vortexing through space cannot be felt, measured, or detected on Earth. Einstein himself said there was no optical experiment that can detect the Earth's motion.
The point there being optical experiment, not experiment, optical experiment. And I don't even know if that ended up holding true. Just because Einstein was a smart guy doesn't necessarily mean he can come up with all science ever. I don't know.
That's stupid. They believe that the moon appears reddish during a lunar eclipse because the sunrises and sunsets of the Earth are refracting onto the moon 234,000 miles away. That's stupid. They believe that a stellar...
Just saying that's stupid when you're literally going against... And I understand that there are times when you can say something is just stupid. I understand that. But when we're talking about the entire book of knowledge of astronomy... of astrophysics, you need to give more than you just think that's stupid. Because that's a terrible argument. I might even say, that's a stupid argument. See, we can both do it. Like, what are you doing here? If all you're gonna do is call things stupid, what's the point of the video? Lily loves stuff with 20 bits. Yes, the North Star has changed multiple times. Holy shit, my third graders I traumatized with the heat death of the universe understood this.
Alien occurs because the sun and moon, which are both above the horizon, somehow aren't really there but only appear there because of refraction, which strangely only happens during a lunar eclipse. That's stupid. They believe that the sun and moon only appear to be the same size in our sky, based solely on an impossible coincidence.
No, it's not an impossible coincidence. It is, however, a coincidence, but coincidences happen. That's why there's a word for them. Batty Bell, thank you for the 685 bits, who is the new the new stream boss, that's the word. Kitty, do you know the Earth is not flat? You must know, Kitty. You must know.
To understand the scale of this, for a tall 7'2" man representing the diameter of the sun, the ball earther would claim that the moon would have a mere diameter...
Someone says... part of the reason Einstein says it's not provable optically is because light is a terrible way to observe space. It's always several million years old. Oh, sure, that makes sense. Takes a long time for the light to get here.
Of the eraser on a pencil. But from our point of view on the Earth, the sun and moon only appear to have the same diameter based solely on a coincidence. That's stupid. They believe that during a solar eclipse that the shadow of the moon, which is supposed to have a diameter of 2,159 miles, casts a shadow on Earth that is only 70 miles in diameter. That's stupid.
Why is that stupid? Shadows can be smaller than the object they're a shadow of. This has been demonstrated multiple times in people debunking flat Earth stuff. Someone literally took a ball and showed its shadow and the size of the ball, and then they moved it away towards the light source, rather, and they showed the shadow get smaller. That's a thing that happens.
They believe that our pressurized atmosphere is adjacent to an inconceivably powerful vacuum.
Why do they always describe the vacuum of space as powerful? It's like they see that on Earth we need, like, powerful, motors and stuff to depressurize vacuum chambers, and they think that same thing exists in outer space, not understanding that the reason we need that here on Earth is because we're existing in an atmosphere, one atmosphere to be exact, when you're at, like, sea level. So you need to keep that out. I think they fundamentally misunderstand what a vacuum is in terms of, like, space vacuum, not vacuum cleaner vacuum. They conflate the two. Stone Corbell with 20 bits. Okay, dude, what do you think the eclipse is, then? How about you offer some explanation of your beliefs or refutation of scientific consensus? This video is unbelievably stupid. It is. It very much is.
Without any effect whatsoever on our air supply or anything else. That's stupid. They believe that the Earth curves away from you at 8 inches per mile squared.
Again, it's not 8 inches per mile squared. That's a bullshit number pulled from Zetetic astronomy. That's a calculation for a parabola. And guess what the Earth is not? It's not a parabola.
based on a ball Earth radius of 3,959 miles, and yet all the evidence demonstrates that we see
The Flower Girl 13 with some bits. Space is a Dyson.
way too far, and there is no measurable curvature. An Earth radius of 3,959 miles? That's stupid. Whether you're at the surface filming across a body of water or in an airplane with an infrared camera, they believe that you can see way too far because the atmosphere has this magical ability to remove all evidence of the curvature and wraps distant objects around the curvature.
What? Not in these photos. You can see really far in these photos because you're at a high altitude. You're in an airplane. You can see farther away when you're higher up. Jesus. Big yikes, Frankie, with 20 bits. I have a degree in HVAC, and I'm here to tell you that believing in science is stupid. And then Lord Cuckbucket with 20 bits. What do these people think meteorites are, and why they aren't flat? Why would a god, if it exists, create a science that rocks in space like to form into balls? But nah, the Earth is the one thing that will be flat, just to mess with those hairless monkeys. It is interesting. Look at this dog and cat with 20 bits. I feel like this guy saw Kent Hovind's 100 Reasons Why Evolution is Stupid and thought it was a good idea. Probably. There's a pretty big crossover between flat earthers and creationists.
That's stupid. They want you to believe that if you were to stand on the west side of Utah Lake with binoculars, that the opposite eastern shore, 13 miles away, should be 70 feet below the horizon.
Again, he's using calculations that are completely incorrect for this.
That's stupid. They believe that all of our oceans are bendy and conform to the shape of a ball, but these bendy oceans simply disappear whenever you try to measure or detect them, and
What?
are certainly
No, they don't. They're just very big. What do you mean they disappear?
never encountered by naval forces. That's stupid.
What do you mean never encountered by naval forces? Literally every boat is on the ocean. What are you talking about?
Believe that the bulge of the Earth can disappear and relocate many miles further while leaving objects in between unaffected, like in this infamous Black Swan video from BMLS B69. Relocating geometric horizons in Earth bulges while not affecting the objects in between? That's stupid. They believe that the only way to tell whether a distant boat is actually a mirage is by the curvature calculator. No, that boat is not a mirage. That is stupid. They believe in the story of the lunar lander, which looks like it was shoddily made by a high school drama club, complete with black paper, tape, gold aluminum foil, and curtain rods, which somehow achieved speeds up to 4,000 miles per hour on descent and ascent, was never tested or flown on Earth, somehow didn't leave a blast crater, included enough room
A blast crater? What are you... Again, I don't think this guy understands that just calling things stupid isn't a good argument. Big yikes, Frankie with 20 bits. This reminds me of Alexander the Great marching his troops to the river that marked the edge of the world, and even though they could see the land on the other side of the river, he had to turn around because his men were too chicken shit. Funny.
for a fold-up dune buggy and had a miraculous air conditioning and fresh air system that could sustain life on the moon for more than 3 days.
Again, it is miraculous that scientists were able to develop that. What have you done? Puffin time with 20 bits. This stupid argument is really compelling, y'all. It always is.
That's stupid. They believed those visible wires above the Apollo astronauts were only light reflections, and that the obvious vertical movie backdrops visible throughout the Apollo
Vertical movie backdrops, aka mountains. It's just an elevation change.
missions were actually real moon landscapes, despite the obvious line between the stage and the backdrop.
That's a hill, and then it dips down, and then it continues. Have you never seen a hill before? How it can hill, and then there's a valley, and then behind it there's more elevation, and you can't see the valley because the ground's in the way. Do you not know how eyeballs work?
That's stupid. They believe that the alleged ISS spaceship, which most certainly looks like a kid's model, which was never assembled on Earth for testing, is actually falling perpetually.
Wait, why would they assemble it on Earth? That makes no sense. They built it in pieces. They built it in modules to then be put together in space. Why would they put it together on Earth first? You can't launch it into space. And there's potential for damaging these things if they tried to ship them to one another to try and put them all together on Earth first. They know what they're doing. As long as they did all their measurements correctly, it's fine. You launch them into space individually, and then you put them together by docking them.
At 17,000 miles per hour in the vacuum of space. That's stupid. They believe that the unproven force of gravity from the moon pulls...
Again, no, gravity is a force we know about. You can do your own experiments on this. The Cavendish experiment is a good one for this. Students around the world do it all the time.
The oceans towards the moon, but has no effect on anything else but the oceans. That's stupid.
Who said it has no effect on anything else but the oceans? It has an effect on the oceans visibly because water is a fluid.
In addition to the alleged gravity of the moon pulling the oceans, they believe that the moon causes high tides on the opposite side of the Earth by causing the Earth to bounce, which bulges the oceans away from the moon. That's stupid. They believe that the bright moonlight that you can read from is actually a reflection of sunlight 234,000 miles away off of a dark gray dust ball, in total contradiction of the inverse square law of light.
How? Why do you think that's an inverse square law violation?
That's stupid. They believe in 19,287 space satellites, which are never photographed except for those ones attached to balloons.
You can go find pictures of satellites. Picture of satellites. Let's find some that are actually photos and not artistic interpretations.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
That one looks like a real satellite. Hold on, pictures of satellite. Real pictures of satellite in space. There we go. Okay, there's one. There's one.
There's nothing funny
That
about the tools of
looks like the
capitalism.
Apollo thing. Like, you can find pictures of these things. You can also see a live feed of the ISS that's on all the time.
That's stupid.
Kitty's trying to push buttons.
I don't know
on
if
the
you've ever
keyboard.
taken the time to look at the supposed satellites deployed during the space shuttle, but
Do flat earthers
footage-
use cell phones and GPS? How do they think they work? Well, cell phones usually work through cell phone towers, which is a different thing. But in terms of GPS, yeah, I don't know how they think that works.
is actually pretty ridiculous.
Ashy Boo says, I get the feeling every time he says that stupid, he really means I don't understand this and don't want to. Yeah.
They believe that radio waves, VHF waves, sonar waves, radar waves, Lorentz and lasers all wrap around the Earth's curvature and can hop bulges of Earth and water hundreds of miles high. That's stupid. They believe in the Coriolis force when it comes to field goal kicks, Foucault pendulums, and the direction of your toilet drain, but then want you to ignore the Coriolis force when you ask about Felix Baumgartner's balloon flight for 2.5 hours at an altitude up to 128,000 feet. Without question, the atmosphere evinces no properties of spin or being attached to the ground, spinning 1,040 miles.
Again, comparing a tiny ball spinning very quickly to a giant Earth spinning one time a day. Not a great comparison. Again, with their misunderstanding of size.
Miles per hour, and to claim otherwise is stupid. They believe that because the Earth spins, that the Earth is bulged at the equator, that the solid ground can bulge, but nothing else is affected by the rotation of the Earth.
The bulge is very slight. Noodles Lolcat with 20 bits, Spirit Science Guy believes QAnon. Oh no. Oh god. Yeah.
And its centrifugal forces.
There's nothing funny about
That's
the tools
stupid.
of capitalism.
Cotton Candy 903 with 20 bits. All of these things can be researched in 5 minutes with the supercomputers we all carry in our pockets. Yep. It's stupid. I figured I'd use this guy's same argument since he likes that one so much.
They believe that commercial surveyors, engineers, snipers, radar operators, pilots, military professionals shouldn't have to take into account the Earth's rotation or the supposed curvature.
They don't have to take the Earth's rotation into account because we're all rotating with the Earth. If you're in the Earth's atmosphere, if you're taking off from the Earth, you're conserving the momentum. That's how momentum works. you're moving along with the Earth, even if you aren't in direct contact with it.
Because for some reason, the Earth's rotation and the curvature evade all detection and don't actually need to be considered.
They do. It's called elevation. If you're flying a plane and you're taking elevation into account, then you're taking the curvature of the Earth into account.
That's stupid. They believe it's perfectly normal for a woman astronaut's hair to be sculpted into the Bride of Frankenstein instead of flowing naturally, like it would in a true weightless
It is moving around.
environment. That's stupid. They believe that airplanes, regardless of speed or altitude, mysteriously tip their noses to automatically adjust for the mountains of curvature. That's stupid. They believe the geometric horizon drops as an observer rises, but ignore the fact that the horizon did not drop one iota as Felix Baumgartner got to 128,000 feet.
He's not high enough. That's high relative to like an airplane, but it's not that high. You're still very close to the surface of the Earth relative to its size. I think that's the main problem with a lot of these flat Earth people. They're incapable of understanding the immense sizes and distances we're talking about when we're talking about the planet.
That's stupid. They believe that the Antarctic Treaty and its enforcement protocols, which prevent all independent exploration below the 60th south parallel, was only instituted to protect the environment. That's stupid. They believe that it's just some strange coincidence that there is no north-south circumnavigation.
There is. We've looked this up before. It happens, but it happens rarely because it's a pretty arduous journey, as it turns out.
That's stupid. They believe the alleged ball planet of Pluto, coincidentally,
Pluto's a dwarf planet.
happens to have an unmistakable Disney Pluto dog on it.
Alright, I'm sorry. Now that's stupid. They think they're like, ooh, we're gonna fake a planet.
Nothing funny about the
What do we
rules of
put on the
Taboo.
fake planet? Ooh, put a Disney dog. God, these people are ridiculous. Can we get a that stupid emote? Maybe.
That's stupid. They believe that the first photograph of Earth in 43 years just happened to have the word sex spelled in the clouds. That's
I don't even see where he's trying to say that is. Hold on, let me take a look at this. He thinks it spells sex. This part kind of looks like an X. But I guess I don't see where it's supposed to... I don't see the S and the E. This is what I'm talking about, by the way, when I say I think conspiracy theorists have, like, hyperactive pattern recognition parts in their brain. Because, like, they're looking at clouds and interpreting them as words, right? Crazy. The sex is upside down. Oh, okay. It still doesn't really look like that, but... Okay.
stupid. They believe that supposed space rockets, like the space shuttle, arc and look like they're falling down only because the rocket is leveling out in space. That's stupid. They believe that you were accidentally created by rocks and ooze and that life really doesn't exist.
What? No, life exists. We're alive. We're talking about it. What do you mean? Evolution doesn't mean life doesn't exist. It explains how life differentiated and speciated over time. What are you talking about?
It's not okay to say that the Earth is flat. I keep getting this question. There's no such thing as life, really. That we're very complicated rocks. And we're a chemical reaction that got complex enough to become conscious.
Gotcha. She's saying things poorly. I understand what she's saying, but she shouldn't say things this way. Not that you should necessarily conform the way you speak to dumb people, but, like, if I were a scientist or a science communicator, I'd like to think I would steer away from speaking about it like that. I understand the concept of, like, abiogenesis and, oh, you know, the Carl Sagan thing of we're all star stuff, but you don't want to say we're just rocks. And also saying life doesn't exist is kind of a stupid way to just describe that life is naturalistic. Very strange.
That's stupid. They believe that a high-precision gyroscope, which retains rigidity in space, somehow automatically corrects for both curvature and axial rotation. That's stupid. They believe that a volcanic plume, which can shoot straight up in the air, is somehow unaffected by the spin of the 1,000 mile per hour ground below it.
Again, it's all moving as part of the Earth. I don't think these people understand momentum. Canadian left support with 20 bits slams hand on table. Learn gravity. Learn gravity. Like, seriously, this is why I have trouble watching these streams, because these people frustrate me so much with how incredulous they are. Yeah, it's frustrating.
That somehow the upper layers of the plume speed up to keep up with the lower levels of the plume. That's stupid. They believe conformity is a virtue, parroting is intelligence, and any statements outside the approved narrative must be censored.
No, they're just trying to correct you when you say wrong statements. Because flat earthers say a lot of really wrong statements.
That's stupid. To be clear, I'm not calling ball earthers stupid. But their irrational, unproven, silly beliefs...
Glass houses.
Void of all evidence are certainly stupid. And if you refuse to think for yourself and to investigate the flat earth with an open mind, that is stupid. Now that we've covered much of what a ball earther believes, what does a flat earther believe? I can't speak for everyone, but this is what I believe as a flat earther.
Oh boy.
Based on all of the evidence, I believe the earth is a flat and motionless plane because all reasonable and objective tests that you can perform indicate the earth is flat and stationary. These tests are repeatable, observable, and falsifiable by anyone. No presuppositions, no pseudoscience dogma, and no appeals to authority figures and conformity. Simply stated, the evidence supporting a flat and stationary Earth far outweighs the evidence of a whirling, twirling ball flying through the vacuum of space. As shown now by hundreds of videos and photographs, there is no measurable curvature, even though the curvature should be easily detectable with modern instruments. And
again, the Earth is huge. We have photos of the Earth from space, but every time one of you people gets shown it, which clearly shows a curve, all you do is say, that's fake. It's fake. So literally, all they've done is disqualify categorically all evidence that's photographic that can show them that the curve exists. They want to see it with their own eyes, but you literally can't do that unless you go to space. I want commercial space travel to become a thing so bad, specifically just so the flat earthers can go to space and see this shit. Casual Snark says, and yet every other planet is round. I think some of them, depending on the flat earther, they believe different things about what the planets are, so it's going to depend. Cotton Candy 903 with 20 bits, they don't realize that that's stupid isn't an argument. You don't say. And then Stephen J. Neptune Man with 20 bits, why is this guy using conformist like the goth kids on South Park? I think because a lot of flat earth ideology centers around the idea that you're special, you know? You're not following those authority figures known as scientists. You're a cool kid that's doing experiments in his backyard or whatever. Ashy Booth 74 with 20 bits. The only real evidence is the evidence that supports what I already believe.
Experienced in everyday life. Even at heights more than 121,000 feet. There's no curvature.
Again, he's not that high up relative to the overall depth of the atmosphere.
And that belies everything we've been shown and told since we were children.
The Earth is huge. These people really, really don't understand how big the Earth is.
I believe that geometric bulges of the ball Earth cannot disappear and relocate to present a false flat Earth. And let us see...
Cotton Candy 903 with 20 bits. Professor Dave Explains on YouTube has a good series of videos debunking flat Earth with no science. I've seen those. They're pretty good. He uses the moon and some other stuff. It's pretty good. Shaded Black Sea with 50 bits. Flat Earthers, the awkward uncle of the internet.
...or detect objects that should be hidden by mountains of curvature.
Angry
I believe in
Arifa,
honest skepticism and demand clear, rational, objective, demonstrable, testable, repeatable, and relevant evidence to prove the shape of our Earth. I believe the Earth is not in space, and that space, at least as it's widely understood, is fake. Space has been faked by NASA and all of the other fraudulent space agencies and their corporate subsidiaries, as shown by all the wires, ridiculous toy models, space bubbles, and many CGI mistakes. I believe the Apollo moon missions, which ended 48 years ago, were poorly faked, with 1960s movie props, wires, models, paintings, and obvious movie backdrops. Because NASA has faked space and the moon landings, I believe that NASA is a criminal organization stealing $62 million per day from the American taxpayer.
Again, to what end? To what end would they be doing this? You claim that they're stealing, however many tens of millions of dollars a day, which isn't even that high relative to, like, the military budget or anything like that. NASA's funding is, honestly, today, lower than it was in the 60s relative to inflation. The NASA budget isn't that high for what they do. To what end? What are they doing with this money that you think they're doing that isn't space? Because the people who are giving them the budget would have to be in on this, right? Congress would have to know NASA's fake. Who in NASA, in your opinion, is benefiting from this and to what end? Why did we decide to go to space? Why is every government of the world, everyone from, Donald Trump to the president of China, whatever the heck his name is. I know he's not the president. He's got another title. I don't remember. Him and, like, Kim Jong, the North Korean leaders, why are they all on the same page in terms of faking space? What would the purpose be that they would all agree on? Doesn't really make sense. Cacao Juniper with 50 bits says yikes.
Under false pretense. Astronauts are nothing more.
Mr. Mumbles with 100 bits. I don't know if you've ever covered her, but Gail Cord Schuler would be an amazing segment for Tinfoil Tuesday. That's a little depressing to me. Gail's pretty darn depressing. She clearly needs meds, so I don't know if I'd feel okay covering her.
Funny about the tools of capitalism.
Didn't seem like that security IT guy was getting any of that 62 million. Yeah, seems not, huh?
Than poor actors who lie continually and should not be venerated by children. I believe that if NASA and their subsidiaries faked any of it, as the clear evidence shows...
What do they mean, the subsidiaries of NASA? Are they talking about, like, private sector partners like SpaceX? Because SpaceX isn't a subsidiary of NASA, nor is, what's the other one? They do airplane stuff. Boeing. Like, these agencies or these companies are not subsidiaries of NASA. They're government contractors. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by subsidiaries of NASA.
Then we can rightfully assume that they fake all of it, which they do. That is the logical and right approach. I believe that it's impossible for a pressurized atmosphere to exist next to the unbelievably powerful vacuum of space.
Your belief is based on a lack of understanding of how gravity works, the atmosphere works, and how vacuums work.
The vacuum of space, if it existed, would certainly kill us all.
Maybe it's the abject horror, like the existential dread of knowing that you are in space and that anything could kill us at any moment. Maybe it's just too much for them to handle, so they have to come up with this conspiracy theory so they're not horrified every second of the day.
I believe that it's okay to theorize and speculate, but theories and speculations do not constitute fact.
Hypocrisy, thy name is Taboo Conspiracy. Stone Corbell with 20 bits. Does he think a vacuum is like a vacuum cleaner that constantly sucks air? Because that's not what it means. Yeah, I think they think it means it sucks.
But our beliefs, and should never be stated as fact.
I also think I mentioned it earlier in this video, but I think because they see like a vacuum chamber on Earth requires a lot of energy to maintain that vacuum because you're like sucking out, all the air. And that's difficult to do on Earth because we're in an atmosphere. There's constantly, if you're at sea level, one atmosphere of pressure trying to get into the vacuum. So I think because of that, they think that space is something similar, and then it's going to try and suck the air out, but that's not how it works. I think it's a misconception. I think they're conflating the mechanics of making a vacuum here on Earth with how vacuum works in space, and not understanding that there's a difference between the two. Empty the Tanks with 20 bits. Just booked a flu vaccine in preparation for work placement next year, Hannah. Would you ever cover anti-vax stuff more closely like you do with Flat Earth? Yeah, I had some anti-vax videos actually pulled up for today that will probably push to next week just because we're already coming up on 3 hours here. But, Yeah, we'll do more anti-vax stuff in the future, especially as, of course, the COVID vaccine continues to be rolled out around the world. All the anti-vax people are freaking out about it, so there'll be plenty of stuff to cover. Cotton Candy 903 with 20 bits. Believe doesn't mean correct. I can believe I can fly all I want, but that doesn't make it true. Yeah.
Fact. I believe in a humble, true science based on the actual scientific method, which includes an independent variable that can be manipulated to change the dependent variable. And I certainly do not believe
Middle school level science. Good job.
in dogmatic, top-down narratives. True science should welcome all questions and challenges.
Innsmouth Swim Team with 25 bits. Team Dark Chocolate. I like dark chocolate. Yeah, you can. You can posit things with your hypothesis, but like any activity, you're sort of dealing with the idea of opportunity cost, right? So when you're doing science, it makes sense to work off of concepts that have already been tested and proven in the way that anything can be proven outside of math, right? Not proven in the math sense, but, evidenced highly where it's accepted at that point. It makes sense to start from that framework, otherwise you're wasting a lot of time redoing things that other people have already done and tested for falsifiability time and time again, right? Like, you can absolutely go back to fundamentals and test things like, the Cavendish experiment. People do this in schools all around the world all the time. But when you're an actual researcher, you don't want to spend your valuable time and equipment on things that have already been covered time and time again. Typically, it's the new stuff that you're trying to publish and then have other people test, right? That's how you get new science, is you publish something, and then other people go and try and repeat that experiment to see if that experiment holds up, and if it does over time, it becomes part of the general scientific knowledge. Like, if we just had every scientist redoing every experiment that's ever been done, nothing would ever get done, because they'd spend all their time redoing stuff. Now, repeatability is a huge thing in science, and you repeat other people's experiments, but typically when you're an actual researcher, you're repeating things that are, not necessarily part of the common knowledge yet. They're newer things that you're still determining whether or not they hold up to scrutiny when they're tested time and time again with the same variable. So, I don't know.
Because
this video makes Al Gore regret ever claiming to invent the internet.
So much of science is now based on nothing but phony stories, blunders, and dogma, we must give science and academia a major overhaul. I do not believe in groupthink, but I believe in our own God-given individual intuition, reason, and logic.
I don't believe in groupthink, but I do believe that we've been given reason by the magical man in the sky that I've been told exists. Cool.
I believe every person must think for themselves, conduct their own objective research, and reach their own rational conclusions based on demonstrable evidence, and you'll never hear a ball earther tell you the same. I believe that institutionalized conformity is destroying humanity, and the evidence of our idiocracy is unfortunately becoming clearer every day.
Someone count that on the accidentally correct board.
I believe it is our duty to share truth to the best of our ability. Finally, I believe in Jesus Christ. In fact, I love Christianity and the Bible. But I believe that any good and truth-loving individual from any background is welcome to my Flat Earth family. In conclusion, I can only advise what every Christian should know, and that is, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. May God bless you all in your pursuit of and sharing His truth. Merry Christmas.
Jeez. Okay, this person's going. Oh, I already have him. Great. Interesting. I always find, I don't know why, with flat earthers, a lot of it is the same argument over and over again, but something about it, it's fascinating to me. And I don't know why. Why do I care so much about it? It's very interesting. This show is as much an exploration of my strange obsession with these people as much as it is an exploration of them. I don't Casual Snark with 20 bits, I believe watching this video has me utter the words, Jesus Christ. Beautiful. You're a masochist? See, it's not, though. It doesn't really hurt me to listen to these people be wrong. I just find it so fascinating, and I don't know why.